In focus, State of Origin, we gave our predictions last week. Anything changed as far as what you think about?
Well, I still think Munster is the key for Queensland. I still think there'll be some points scored. One thing I will say is, I was thinking about like what's going to happen in this game. New South Wales won that won the series with one play at the back end of last year, and it would have sat with Billy for a long period of time. I know how Billy reacts to things, and he'd be sitting in his bunker analysing every Queensland play, but also picking apart New South Wales. And in big games, Billy loved to come up with a play, a trick shot, something that just threw the opposition out. Yep. I don't know what it will be, but I'm pretty sure he'll come up with something, either the game plan or a trick shot, that will sort of try and ruffle the feathers of New South Wales. So keep an eye on that. But I still think Munster, I think 22-14 Queensland, I think it's going to be an entertaining game.
It will be an entertaining game. And earlier today, Stephen Crichton left training, had an ice bag on his quad, so we'll find out there. That's a nervous weight. He's such an important player. That combination, Latrell Mitchell and Stephen Crichton, as far as centres, it's as good as it gets. So, look,
do you think they dominate? Do you think Latrell and Stephen Crichton is the point of difference? Like,
I do. I think they dominate.
I'm worried. I'm worried as a Queenslander.
Look, it's a great combination given the way that Nathan has been playing. If you watch the way Penrith have been playing of late and how straight Nathan's been playing, and how, like, he's been playing so straight, he's been just basically peeling an opposition short and giving his outside men so much time and space. With Latrell and Crichton,
that worries me.
That's a big opportunity there.
If Cleary and Moses can connect and condense the middle part of the defence and create just space for Latrell and Crichton, I think Hammer and Rob Toyer need to almost have their, well, it's Toyer's debut game, but they need to have the best defensive performance they've ever had.
You mentioned Billy. I want to talk about Laurie. not Laurie's coaching, his playing career. A lot of younger people who come to the game don't remember Laurie as a player and what he did for New South Wales as a player. I think when you're talking about, when you talk about Queensland, they talk about the greatest Queensland players. Is, of course, Wally Lewis, of course, Cameron Smith. When it comes to New South Wales, there's blokes like there's Joey, they've spoken about Bradley Clyde, Brett Kenny, Freddie. Mate, I put Laurie just about the top. His contribution to New South Wales and basically changing, like, Queensland dominated for so long throughout the 80s, but the emergence of those young guys from the Green Machine, that Canberra era, really swung it back New South Wales way. And Laurie typified that. He came in, it was funny, his first series was in '89, right? And the great Jack Gibson was coaching the New South Wales side. Jack knew you had this kid who was developing, who was going to be a legend of the game. He just missed it by 12 months. Because when he came in, Laurie, that first series, Loz really struggled. He talks about, I've spoken to him, I interviewed him about it, and I said, that first series in '89, bad memories, he said, mate, it's terrible. He said, I went in so naive, not knowing what Origin was about. He was 19 years of age. And he said, I was playing centre opposite my mentor, my hero, my teammate, my captain, Mal Meninga. And he said, naively, I went into that game believing Mal would take it easy on me.
Yeah.
And he said he just completely humiliated Loz. Talking about his trajectory as a player, the big turning point for Laurie, I think his breakout as far as being a representative player was City versus Country 1990. And Country were beaten by 2 points, but Laurie absolutely tore City to shreds. And after the game, it was like, mate, he was... Everything changed. He went into State of Origin that year, 1990, and dominated Queensland in the first game. But the big one, when Phil Gould, the big rise with Laurie Coops, come when Phil Gould was coach. Gus recognised straight away that Laurie's got to be my captain. He elevated him as captain. But I love this story. When you talk about, Gus spoke to him about, what did you learn from that first series? Tell me about that first series. And he told Gus the story about playing against Mal and thought Mal would take it easy on me and how he humiliated him. Anyway, when he made Laurie captain, he said, they're playing a game at Lang Park. It's a big game. Might have been a decider. And he said, I've been the call, the tap on the dressing room, mate, come out. The captain's out, got to toss the coin, and Mal's the captain of Queensland. Anyway, Gus grabbed him and said, this is your time. He said, go and hide in the toilet. let Mal wait for you out there. So he said Mal was forced to wait outside. Laurie's hiding in the toilet as a power play. Mal is just standing out there, made him wait 5 minutes and then strolled out. And it was just a statement. He said Mal was filthy. And Mal knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. And then he turned, went back into the sheds. It was a turning point. And Laurie, that 94 series, Laurie completely dominated it, to the fact that, Coops, they won, I don't know if it was decided, but they won game 3 in a really tough game at the Sydney Football Stadium. And Laurie scored a key try late. I remember talking to Paul Harrigan the next day, who was my skipper at Newcastle. He played in that game. And it was myself and Adam Muir. And we're having lunch with Chief, and I said, geez, tough game. He said, yeah, really tough. And I said, you know, how did you feel through the game? You know, like when they were on top, did you think we'd win? He said, I knew we'd win. And I said, why did you know you'd win? He said, because we had Laurie Daley. And I think that says it all.
It's funny, like my history lesson of Origin, you mentioned about Mal, and I always wanted to play Origin, but I didn't play until 2010, so I was still playing first grade for a few years, and everyone else would pack their bag, go off to Origin, and I'd stay behind. It started cutting me, and I wanted for ego to be a part of it, right? So all I thought about was Origin was the best game of the year, and I just wanted to play in it. So I was self-driven and egotistical about it. I get into Origin camp in 2010 for my debut, and Mal talks about the history of Origin, where the concept of Queensland started in 1980, and all of a sudden it became more powerful than just me. So I'm talking about, like, why does Queensland rise when they play in the maroon jerseys? Because, quick history lesson, prior to 1980, it was always about where you played, right? So all the good players of Queensland moved to New South Wales, represented Queensland, they played in the state game, and New South Wales would smash Queensland 50-0 every game. And the Queenslanders got smashed. It wasn't until 1980 when they changed the rules of where you're born. Arthur Beats in that first scrum. He's playing reserve grade for Parramatta at the time. Packs in, Mick Cronin is the gun player for Parramatta at the time for New South Wales. Gets stuck into him, and that is mate versus mate, state versus state. Mal brought that story up. So the power of that Queensland jersey, why did Queenslanders get Origin? It's because of that history lesson of the past and playing for the future. And
well, I lived through that, Coop. Like, you know, growing up, following when I was a young kid in the 70s, watching New South Wales, when the interstate games come around, like, we would annihilate Queensland. And I still remember the first ever State of Origin game. I was living in Newcastle. We didn't get the game televised, and I believe I'm listening to it on the radio, and I'm listening to Queensland just belt us. And I said to my dad, what's going on? Like, you know, I didn't understand the concept, but watching it back later, like, I get goosebumps watching Arthur Beetson run on the field like the returning hero. I heard Chris Close tell a story once. It was Gordy relaying the story. The only difference was Choppy's story went for 2 minutes and Gordy's went for 2 hours. But he told Gordy, he said, I'm a young guy sitting there, and he said, in the next locker to me, or sitting next to me, is Arthur. And he said, Arthur's just sitting there really quiet, and Arthur's got all his tape, he's doing all his own taping, and he's strapping his fingers up. And he said, I looked at him and said, mate, this guy's going to war. It was like he was a warrior going to war. And, man, a contribution. So often, Coops, you're just talking there about the history, and the history that you blokes are taught when you go into camp, and how important that is for you blokes. And oftentimes that's the reason why you blokes, going into a series, you win the battle of the narrative, if that makes sense. You win that battle. Well, I played in that game where that series, Fatty's Queenslanders in 95, right? And we went into camp.
30 years.
When did that go?
30 years.
Apologise to the studio audience. By the way, we'll give a shot of wave. We've got a studio audience
Our
here.
3 fans.
Hello, guys. How are you? Our three viewers have made the trip to Artarmon to watch us, and howdy. So we had, like, a gun team. Right? Even though Super League players weren't selected, we had a gun side, you know, Freddie and Chief and so on.
And Matthew Johns.
Of course. Stop Johns, stop New South Wales. Anyway.
Why'd you laugh at yourself there?
That was just a funny turn of phrase. We went in there, and I've heard Gus talk about this after Queensland beat the series. I said, what was the difference? He said, our blokes turned up into camp trying to show each other how skillful they were, and the Queenslanders turned up trying to show each other how tough they were. And Coops, that first night at the Sydney Football Stadium, I remember, I think, and I was right, did the warm-up, felt good, you know, run onto the field, and I'm standing there, right, and I look over as Queensland run on and I see my teammate Robbie O'Davis, and there was just something different about him.
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought, we might be in trouble here. There was just something, there was an extra layer of intensity in that team.
Yeah. So there's not a huge gap that there was in 95, but there's some similarities. And the example will be Payne Huss and Patrick Carrigan.
Yeah.
Like, that will be the example. Payne Huss runs out the field. I bet you Patrick Carrigan's not high-fiving him saying g'day. Like, it'll be on.
It'd be good, mate. Big, great clash with Tino too.
Oh, yeah, back.
Yeah, it's a big one for you.